Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Colton, and today we're going to be going over Link's Awakening, which is another game retrospective. It's kind of been a minute since I did one. The last one I did was the Ocarina of Time video. But real quick in this little intro portion, I just kind of wanted to give a insight into what my channel is, because I feel like a lot of people, they'll click into one video and then they'll see a video that's wildly different and they don't realize it's from me. But anyways, I do videos that are deep dives on anything that I like or anything that I'm really feeling at the moment, whether this be a horror series I like, a game that I'm into, or an album that I enjoy. I want to start eventually doing movies or shows. I think that would be pretty cool. But so far I've mainly just done, like I said, horror, gaming, and music. And I just love making deep dive videos into whatever I like. So if you like those kind of things, if you just want something to cut on in the background while you eat or study, or you really want to listen to what I have to say, then I hope you'll stick around and subscribe, like, and comment. I mean, that really helps the channel out. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm trying my hardest to make it there. I'm really on the YouTube grind for this summer. So I'm going to try to keep sticking to weekly videos on Fridays, but if for some reason that doesn't happen, the video will either end up coming out the following Tuesday or just move back to the next Friday. It will be one of the two. But I really do hope that you all end up enjoying this video. Link's Awakening is interesting, as it came after A Link to the Past, and it was created to test the capabilities of the Game Boy Color. Though the one I played through is a Nintendo Switch version, which I've seen a lot of debate about online, about if it's good or not. And you'll see my thoughts on that. But I'm going to go ahead and get into the game. At the beginning, we have a cutscene showing a storm and Link is on a boat. But that's when it's struck by lightning, and we see him wind up on a beach, where Marin finds him. And at the same time, we see this massive egg. We then wake up and can talk to Terran. He'll talk to you and then give your shield back. I then decided to look around and eventually headed to the beach. That's where we can find our sword. And we get talked to by the owl. He'll tell us about how the monsters around the island are acting violently, and it must be because some hero is here to try and wake the windfish. I wonder who that could be. But with that, he tells us to head to the mysterious forest. A lot of what I want to talk about in the game will just naturally come up. Eventually I'll get to the trading sequence, different seashells, heart pieces, and Dompe's quest. But for now though, I'm just going to continue with the main story. But after some exploring around, you can head to the mysterious forest. And here you'll find some enemies around that are pretty simple, like moblins. But you'll also talk to the owl again. He'll tell you more about the island and how you need to find the tail key, which is actually the key to the first dungeon of the game. There's 9, 1 optional, but if you count where the final boss is, there's 10. After adventuring around the forest, eventually you'll find the toadstool. You can take this to the Koholint Prairie to the witch's hut. After you give her the shroom, she gives you magic powder. You know, the usual. And if you were adventuring before, you would have seen a raccoon in the forest. But now, you can use the magic powder on him to reveal it's actually Terran. He'll talk to you about goings on, but then you can open the chest behind him to get the tail key. The owl then tells you to take the key to Tail Cave. Now this was a large point where I started doing some collecting, and then at this point, this was done through fishing, and also the trendy game, which stupid physics, just like the real crane games you play. Also, there's just different places we can explore around to get seashells that we don't know quite what to use them for. The fishing game is fun until you waste hella time doing it. You use A to cast, and then reel back by pressing A as well. At this point, there's only basic fish, but just different sizes. You have to catch some fish for seashells and heart pieces, and at first you start with the lightweight lure, but you'll get the middleweight lure, which allows your lure to go lower quicker, which is important because others grab on there. At this point, there's also a fairy bottle at the bottom of the screen. We can get it as well. It only costs 10 rubies, like the trendy game, so you'll have a lot of tries. We also start the trading sequence here. You have to get the Yoshi doll from the trendy game, take it to the big house in Mabe Village to trade it for the ribbon. You can then go to Meow Meow's house and put the Chow Chow figure down. Then trade the ribbon for dog food, which you can then trade the dog food to an alligator for bananas. But for now, that's all we can do before going into the first dungeon of the game, the Tail Cave. It's honestly really damn simple. It is the first dungeon, so what do you expect? You'll see beetles you have to knock into holes. I love that when you knock enemies into holes, you see their hope like slowly fade as they know their fate. It's like a Looney Tunes character. But anyways, yeah, you go around collecting small keys as usual. This dungeon doesn't have much of a gimmick, though you can early on find the stone beak, which is in every dungeon. These allow you to put the beak on different owl statues in the dungeon that give you hints. There's also these cool 3-of-a-kind enemies that you have to stop all in the same suit to get rewarded. There's also screw blade traps, which those things are so annoying, like I can't even. But what you'll notice here though is there are some Mario enemies. Really weird, but I'll end up explaining that later and like why I think they're here. But the dungeon item you're really looking for in this one is Rock's Feather. This feather allows you to jump, and you can even jump on a Goomba, which will give you a heart. But this item is the one that makes the game, to me, a lot more fun. Once you get it, it's now time to look for the Nightmare Key, which is always the final key of each dungeon, to fight the nightmare within it. There's also a mini-boss in this dungeon called Rolling Bones. He looks like a used up ball of slime in my opinion, like he just looks weird. But he just pushes a spiked log at you, and you can easily jump over it and beat him down. It'll create a warp point in this dungeon, which isn't very useful, but in later ones, it can be nice to have. But now we can fight the first nightmare, Moldorm. Conveniently, he is shaped like the Tail Cave symbol. You have to make sure to not fall into the cracked holes on the side of the room, and you just have to hit the back of his tail. He'll get more mad and try to block it off, but then eventually the weak point will open up again and you can hit it again. Then eventually he'll turn red and go super fast, and you can hit the back of his tail one more time. He'll then be defeated, and you can grab the heart container. The difference in this game is after that, you can then walk up and get one of the instruments of the sirens, which you get one per main dungeon. Here, you get the full moon cello. We then get the hint. Swamp, a path opens in bloom. The owl then tells us to go to the swamp again. You can go around and get more seashells and heart pieces, but also we need to go to the Moblin's lair. Here you'll fight a mini boss, King Moblin. You just have to wait until he charges, stuns himself, and then slash away at him. Once he's defeated, you can find Bow Wow all the way out here. We could take him back, but we need him to go to the swamp as he can eat the flowers around the swampy water, and then you can make it to the cave, which is actually the next dungeon, the Bottle Grotto. The map is literally shaped like a bottle. What you'll notice in this dungeon is you can use the magic powder on some unlit torches to light up the rooms. There's also now these switches that when you hit, change some blocks to go up and others to go down. Also, there's some new enemies like Stalfos who wear hoods and Stalfos who are green. The cool one though is the masked mimic that follows your movements. You can just spin attack to hit him. The mini boss in this dungeon is the orange Hinox. You can just beat the crap out of him, but then he runs at you to grab you, and he can throw you at the wall. He's pretty simple, but I did get volleyballed around for a minute. Also, watch out for the annoying vacuum enemy that pulls you in. In this dungeon, it really just introduces the whole hitting switches to change different parts. There's also another Mario enemy of a piranha plant. And there's this interesting room though, where you have to defeat the enemies in a specific order to progress in the dungeon. After you get the nightmare key, we can head to the next nightmare, the genie. He's more interesting than Moldorm for sure. He first can't be damaged, but you have to wait until he goes into the vase. Then you can throw it at the wall, and eventually it'll explode. He'll then toss fireballs at you that you have to dodge. You then can hit him. You have to do it a decent bit of times, and he will then be defeated, and you then get your heart container and get the second instrument the conch horn. We then see the text. We now again have some collecting to do, but also we can take Bow Wow back. We can also purchase the shovel, which allows you to dig up the ground like a villager from Animal Crossing. We also got the power bracelet, which now lets us lift rocks and pots. This, and the shovel, open up a lot more collecting of seashells that are hidden. We can get a magic power upgrade in the mysterious forest, and of course, more heart pieces. We also can go further up from the witch's hut to find a lady who gives a secret medicine, which makes us have stronger health than usual, as now you'll automatically come back to life if you lose all your health. Then we can go meet Dompe, who tells you to come meet him at his house. And when you do, you get these trash missions that I'll get to more later. We now can head to the prairie. First, we need to enter a house to the south, which has a bunch of frogs and a guy named Richard. He'll say how he used to live in this castle, but his servants went mad and casted him out. Maybe he was just like a dictator or something, I don't know. But we're going to help him out anyway, I guess. So this is by getting him 5 golden leaves. We can also get the next trading sequence item of a stick after giving the monkey bananas, which doesn't seem like a very fair trade. But he did make a bridge for us though, so I'll give him that. You can head up along the castle wall to a staircase, and you then have the usual side scroller section. And you'll then come up back past the castle gate. We have to defeat different enemies like a crow, mad bomber, Zoles, and dark nuts for 3 of the golden leaves. And then inside we have a mini dungeon of sorts. We can get the 4th golden leaf from a dark nut, but then the 5th golden leaf we get from this huge ball and chain trooper. He'll chuck the ball at you, and when he's recovering, you just have to hit him. You do this about 8 times and you'll get the leaf. Now with that, we can collect more seashells of course, get another trading sequence item of honey, and go to Seashell Mansion. Why is there a mansion with a soul that is so obsessed with seashells? I don't know, but we're going to bring them here. Because he gives us nice things. As when you get different amounts of seashells, you get different rewards. The first you get is actually a seashell sensor. It, of course, lets you know when one is nearby. After more collecting, we need to go find the slime key. To do this, we need to go back to Richard and take him the leaves. And he'll then let us open a staircase that lets us head up to Pothole Field. You just have to slowly navigate around to make sure you don't fall in any holes. You then can make it to the end, where you'll find the slime key. We can then go into the key cavern by using it. Key cavern is shaped like a key, and it has lots of keys. Who would have known? It has some differences with enemies, and now you can throw pots at doors that have pot symbols on them to open them. There's also these rip-off Babam enemies as well. So many Mario enemies. And there's also a lot of backtracking with hitting switches to open up other parts of rooms, of course. Paroids at this point are annoying new enemies, but the way you defeat them for now is putting bombs where they teleport usually, and then walk to them so they teleport there. Also, there's these mini bosses of Dodongo snakes. You have to throw a bomb in their mouth as they open it, or at least lay one there for them to eat. But the dungeon items this time are the Pegasus boots. They allow you to super dash, which makes those paroids a lot easier. You can defeat the vacuum this way as well, and you can also find a golden rupee in a chest in this dungeon that gives you 300 rupees. To get the nightmare key, we have to use the boots in combination with Rock's feather to get to a chest to get it. We also get the compass all the way after this. Why do we even need the compass at this point? Again, I don't know. But we can walk in this room with a bunch of conveyor belts, and at the top of the screen is where we can see the nightmare key. Our next nightmare is Slime Eyes. This is a very strange boss. You'll walk in and see nothing, and if you wait too long, enemies will start falling off the floor. But if you use the Pegasus boots and hit the wall, he'll fall down, and you then have to hit him on his sides to pull him apart as much as possible. Then, once you do, charge in the thin middle with the Pegasus boots. This will separate both sides. And then now, you can hit both sides directly. Once you get rid of both Slime's eyes, you'll get a heart container and you can get the sea lily's bells. We then see the text. The owl will come back and tell us we need to see some monster in the desert, so that must be our next task. But first, we can collect more, but also get the ocarina. You can get it by going to Mabe Village and lifting the rocks in front of that one building. You can hop in the bed and you'll end up in a shrine of sorts. Here, you'll find the ocarina and you can take it and leave. If you go speak with Marin after this, she'll teach you the Ballad of the Windfish. But now we need to find that desert. But on the way, we also find Animal Village. In Animal Village, we can trade the honey for a pineapple from a bear. All of the animals in this town are like people. There's also this walrus in the way of advancing to the desert, so we have to get Marin. Marin will be back at Toronto's shore. Here, you'll find Marin, and I feel like this is one of the best moments of the game, and a personal favorite. You talk to her on the beach, and she discusses how she wishes she could see what's out there off the island, and wishes she could be like a seagull and fly across the ocean to find it. There's then this very feel-good moment where it seems Marin has feelings for Link, but she agrees to join you to go to the walrus. While you're with Marin, you can go to this cliff on the west side of the shore to get a small cutscene where she says this will be her and Link's secret place. You can also go to the trendy game and she'll pick up the owner and the owner's like, oh, she's a pro, you have to get out of here. And then you ended up getting kicked out. We then can take Marin to go and wake up the walrus with the Ballad of the Windfish. After this, you have to go in the desert and defeat the mini-boss of the Land Mola. Once you defeat it though, the angler key will fall in the quicksand you fought the Land Mola in. You can fall in to end up in a cave that also has a heart piece, but of course has the key. Around the desert, you can find some seashells, and you can also find one in the ancient ruins, and up near the mountain range. This is also the time where I did the first set of Dompe missions, which to me are by far the worst parts of the game. I'm sorry, but why would I want to mindlessly go through rooms I've already defeated again? It's so boring and lame. I only did them to get the heart pieces and seashells. This to me is definitely not for fun. Who cares if I get a freaking chamber stone? Who wants to do these? Dompe, just like go screw yourself, bro. It's so annoying. Thank you for the items though. It's just too bad it takes you defeating 4 of them of each difficulty rating to actually get the good stuff. And you also have to wait to unlock some of them. It's just all around a bad part of an otherwise great experience. Nintendo, just don't do that again. You did right when you made like Super Mario Maker or something where you can make levels for other people and it was completely designed by you. But doing it where literally it's just rooms you've already went through a million times and you have to do it a million times again to get everything is so lame. I'm sorry about the rant, God, but this part was just a lot of collecting until we go to one of my top 2 favorite dungeons of the game. And I am not talking about Angler's Tunnel, but the Color Dungeon. You first have to head to the library and you'll see this book hanging off of the bookshelf. If you use the Pegasus boots, it will fall down and it then gives you arrows for 5 gravestones back at the graveyard. If you move the graves the right way, the Color Dungeon will open up to you. Here, we will find my favorite design dungeon. There's enemies of different colors like the goblins that come from under you, but there's also these puzzles where you have to hit these switches in the right order to get a reward, or open up a new area. There's also these skeletal enemies that hop around or fly, which in rooms they are in break the floor around you. There's also enemies that are a puzzle in themselves, where you have to hit them and throw them into the corresponding shape in the floor that's on them. Of course, there's the usual stone bee, compass, and dungeon map in here as well. The first mini-boss in this dungeon is the giant buzz blob. You just have to throw magic powder on it, and then you can slash it. After 6 times of this, it was defeated, and you can move on. Quickly after, you'll fight the second mini-boss, Dekudon. He's a boxy-shaped guy who hits the ground to stun you, and then tries to drop boulders on you. You just have to hit him while he's moving around, and then make sure to jump to dodge getting stunned. You can then head on, and you'll have 2 slightly longer versions of puzzles from before. Shout out to the triangle symbol guy you only see once. But after the longer switch color puzzle, you can head up and then go through the nightmare door. And here you'll fight Hard Hit Beetle. He's a cool looking boss as you just have to slash away at him, but the more you do, his shell changes colors. It can also regenerate if you take too long, and he moves away faster as you fight him. There's also these projectiles he shoots at you, but they're not really a problem. Like, this is so stupid, but the colors of his shell are so cool to me. But once it gets to red, he'll be the fastest. But after one more hit, he'll be defeated. But since this dungeon is technically optional instead, when you head right, there's a great fairy fountain here. She'll let you choose between the red mail that gives you more attack power or the blue mail that gives you more defense. I just picked the blue because blue is my favorite color, but yeah, the defense is cool, I guess. But I would for real suggest just doing the defense one because you end up getting an attack upgrade later, so it doesn't really make any sense to be redundant. Just get the blue one. Now we can finally use the angler key. We have to go up to the tall mountain range. There, you'll see a keyhole. Once you put it in, it opens up around the mountain. Through some caves. There's also the hibiscus trading item we can get. There's some shells and heart pieces, of course. But eventually you'll reach a cliff you can jump down and you'll be at Angler's Tunnel. It's just a slightly longer key cavern. The biggest difference is that there's just a lot of water around it and some deep water we can't go in quite yet. There's also new enemies of Techites that float around the water and Peahats that fly around. We can find the dungeon map, stone beak, and compass. The dungeon mini-boss we eventually run into this time is Cue-Ball. He's pretty simple. He just runs around the room, and you can jump over him or chase him down to hit him in the back. Once you do that enough times, he'll be defeated. Though after this weird lever room, we can find flippers. These allow you to swim in the deep water finally. Which you can see how that will let you do a lot more outside of the dungeon as well, like later on. In the dungeon though, the other new enemies are Iron Mask. These guys are defeated by hitting them from the side with no mask. Dodged a bullet there. Though we do get a hint about the glint of blocks. You have to step on these weird looking blocks in different rooms in a specific order, which will then give us a reward. In the underground areas we see a thwomp, and also in the last one we'll see Cheep Cheep. But first, we have to get the nightmare key. Now that we have it, we have to go through an underwater sequence and then come back up. We'll find the nightmare door we can now unlock. And what's weird is it looks like another side-scrolling sequence. We have to swim down to fight the most pathetic boss in the game by far, the anglerfish. You just have to slap the light on his head. He'll charge around, and if he hits a wall, rocks will come down or more anglers will come. If you hit him at the right time, you can just wail on him even more. You honestly can the whole fight. He really just doesn't even put up a fight. But once you hit him enough times, he'll be defeated. You can get your heart container and get the fourth instrument, the surf harp. Right outside the dungeon, we can meet Mambo, who teaches you Mambo's Mambo. This, when played, lets you teleport to the warp portals, but also warp to the entrance of a dungeon you're in. It's a nice convenience feature for sure. We can do a lot of collecting again, but as we're leaving, you'll notice some purple ghost is following you. You must take them back to their house, which is at Martha's Bay. It's decrepit and worn down by time. Kinda reminds me of the Briscoe Park houses. After they look around their house for way too long, they ask you to take them back to the cemetery. Kind of annoying, but like, okay, I guess. You have to walk them to the grave at the cemetery that has pink flowers around it. We then need to do some trading. You can give the goat woman the hibiscus from earlier, and she'll give you the letter. You can then give the letter to Mr. Wright for the broom. Then after that, you can give the broom to Grandma Yahoo for the fishing hook, which you then can give to a fisherman. Not the one you think though. You have to swim under the bridge near Ukuku Prairie, and this will lead you to a side-scroller type of screen with a fisherman. Once you give him the hook, he'll fish you up a necklace. You then can go to Martha's Bay to give a mermaid the necklace for a scale. Though through all of this, you're also collecting heart pieces and seashells, of course. You can also get a bomb upgrade from some hidden stairs from the Bat Guy. Though now after a lot of those tasks, we can head to the Catfish's Maw and Martha's Bay. This dungeon can definitely have a lot of backtracking moments and getting lost. Honestly, the design of this dungeon is one of my least favorites, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of boring looking, but the boss I do like, despite him also looking boring. You of course have your usual enemies and tasks. You have to find the compass, stone beak, and dungeon map. The first mini boss of this dungeon is the Master Stalfos. You have to fight him 4 times. Like, it's a cool fight, but obviously it's repetitive as hell to fight him 4 times. He hops away the first few times to escape and takes items, and specifically the hook shot that you get. But once he's defeated that 4th time, he'll drop the hook shot. I love me some hook shot. This thing allows you to grab around farther away areas across gaps, and also stun some enemies. We have to do a lot of goofy freaking backtracking. But eventually, we'll find the second mini-boss, Goma. You have to hookshot whichever one opens its eye. It'll stun one, and you have to slash it. You have to keep doing this until both are defeated. It just gives you a warp point though, and yet again, we have to backtrack. Honestly, in all these next dungeons, we have to backtrack more and more, which I don't mind. I know it's part of the game, but in this one, it's definitely the most annoying, just due to the swimming. We get a hint from an owl telling us we have to do something where the torches meet. There's a room with a deep water hole we can dive down. This brings us to a side-scrolling section with some bloopers, another Mario enemy, of course. When you go back up, you can use a hook shot to pull a bridge across. You can head across to get to the chest with the nightmare key. You can get some extra rupees around. But now it's time to fight the next nightmare, Slime Eel. Okay, his name and color palette might be boring, but the way you fight him is cool. His tail swings around as his head pops out of different holes and chomps. Sometimes it will have black pupils and sometimes white. You need to make sure it has black pupils, and then as it chomps, you can hookshot him to yank him out. The farther you pull him out, the longer you can hit the weak point. This sounds like the worst freaking innuendo ever, but like, it's the only way I can describe it. Anyways though, you just have to keep repeating the process until he's defeated. And once he is, you of course can get the heart container and get the 5th instrument, the wind marimba. But now with that, we can head out and do another trade. We have to make sure to make our way to the mermaid statue in Martha's Bay. And whenever you put the scale in, you can walk up to where you can get the magnifying glass. This item allows you to see hidden enemies, but also hidden NPCs we couldn't talk to before. If we go back to Animal Village, there's another Zora in the house that previously looked empty. He'll give you a shell, and tell you of another NPC you can also now see with the magnifying glass. We can then fully finish off the trading sequence by going there and trading our shovel for the boomerang. We can also buy the shovel back for 300 rupees, which I did right after. But the boomerang is obviously a weapon that can be thrown, and it can hit things from far away and grab items and bring them back to us. It can also take out the annoying spark enemies, which we've had nothing to hit with at this point. We can do some collecting and also do the second set of trash Dompe missions, but now we can make our way to the South Face Shrine. You just have to go to the southern side of the ancient ruins and walk through a maze to the shrine. When you go inside, you'll fight an Armos Knight. I really ended up beating him best by spin attacking. He does a lot of damage though. When his armor is down though, you can shoot him with a bow and arrow, and you'll then be able to pick up the face key, which we know can be used to open the next dungeon. You can go up a screen though and light the torches. And here we can read a carving that says, "To the finder, the Isle of Kohohillant is but an illusion. Human, monster, sea, sky, a scene on the lid of the sleeper's eye awake the dreamer, and Kohohillant will vanish much like a bubble on a needle castaway. You should know the truth." Anyways, let's continue on our cool adventure. The owl, though, tells us the same thing. No one knows if the island is just a dream of the windfish, but I guess we'll have to find out. Here's where you can do the worst mini game in the game. Screw the Rapids ride, especially right after I just did the second set of Dompe missions. You go up the mountain range and you can meet this person in a house that you can pay for a raft. And if you pick Rapids Raid, you're not timed and you can go around the course and collect whatever you want. There's a heart piece and a shell that you should get. Then in the race mode, you need to get under 40 seconds for a heart piece and under 35 seconds for a seashell. Though now with that, we'll have 40 shells, which will let us get awesome reward at the seashell mansion, which is the Koholint sword. This sword does much more damage. It's awesome, and in combination with that defense from the tunic, we are a literal juggernaut for real. When we put the key in, the shrine comes out from the ground. And now with that, we can enter the face shrine. The face shrine entrance already looks different than most other dungeons. It has 2 paths with 1 on each side. I went west first. Here we can fight some classic Wizrobe enemies, those freaking annoying douchebags. And also eventually we can go into an underground section that has a new enemy of these giant bubbles that you can't kill. You just have to dodge them, but after you resurface this time, you can open a chest and you'll get the level 2 power bracelet. This allows you to lift the large elephant statues you see around. But now we can make our way around, getting the dungeon map, compass, and stone beak as always. But now with that new power bracelet, we can open up new doors by picking up the statues and throwing them into the doors with the elephant shapes on them. There's also a random part where you come up out of the dungeon for a sec where you can get a seashell. When you go back in, you can go to a room with these weird knight chess pieces. You have to throw them in a specific way where it lands in the squares. In a real game of chess, the knights move in an L shape, so you have to make sure you're in that shape away from the place you're throwing it on the floor. There are some rubies to get here, but after getting all of that, we can head to the east side of the shrine. A mini boss in this dungeon is the Smasher. He just uses the bowling ball as a crutch, but once he inevitably misses you, you can just pick the ball up and throw it back at him a few times and he's defeated. He's really easy to bully. You then have to block some tiles in a room where they come up off the floor, which is pretty simple. There's a part with some Paul's voices you can defeat with the Ballad of the Windfish. And you can go through an underground area with thwomps as well. There's some Dodongo snakes you beat the same way as before, and a new door will open. And after this, we just gotta use some keys to eventually reach the chest with the Nightmare key. We then gotta make our way to the Nightmare. Once you enter, you'll meet the dungeon boss, Facade. He's a literal face in the floor. He pulls up tiles to throw at you and creates holes in the ground. You can defeat him by dropping bombs on his face as he appears around. You can just do this a few times while avoiding his attacks, and he'll be defeated. He gives up, and you can get a heart container in the coral triangle. Now as it said, we need to head to the mountains. But first, we're going to do the signpost maze. You have to read these signposts and follow them exactly. If you don't, it restarts. I failed this way more times than I'd like to admit. But once you complete it, you'll meet Mamu from Super Mario Bros. 2. He teaches you the frog song of Soul, which he says will make things more alive. If we go to where Marin was in the game, there's this blue chicken looking statue. Now that we have a stronger power bracelet, we can move it back and go down the steps. When you go in, you'll just see these bones on the ground. But if we remember what Mamu said, we can play the Song of Soul, and this brings the blue rooster back to life. Now little bro will follow you, and he's honestly really cool. I like him. After this, I did the last fishing objectives. Now you can catch a cheap blooper and Baron. When you're catching the Baron, it's at the bottom of the screen, and it's tough. Once you do, you'll get the heavyweight lure, and also a seashell. Also, you can catch the blooper, which moves just like the one in Mario, to try and get away. But when you catch it, you'll get a good reward. And when you catch the cheap, it'll be jumping around, but you'll also get a seashell from them. Then we can do the final set of Dompe missions one by one, which makes it even more annoying. But finally, you'll be done with that absolute garbage in the game and get the third fairy bottle. Now, we can actually head up the tall mountain range. You just have to go up through some steps, ladders, and caves, and you'll find some shells on the way up. And one is in a hole you have to bomb from a bridge, which is kind of cool. Though the blue cuckoo allows us to navigate more freely up here, as you can fly with him. In one cave you need him to fly you across, where you can find the key for the longest dungeon, for me at least, Eagle's Tower. There's another shell you can find, and you can get a lot of rupees in this one weird section where you have to open all the chests in this room without walking out to get a nice reward. As you go up this eastern side of the mountain, you'll find a warp portal. And then now, we can place the key into the slot, and Eagle's Tower will come out. As I've said, this dungeon, to me, took the longest out of any of them. It has 4 floors, and a lot of things that change around as you progress. And it has a lot of rooms. Just all around a lot. You'll already see switch blocks that can be switched around with a crystal. Our first goal is to knock down the 4 pillars that we see around though. You can do this with the bowling ball you can see early on. You can throw it in the 4 pillars, and also watch out for falling down holes, as you'll end up down at the floor below. You can fight another mini boss as well. It's a Hinox, but this time he's red. He can throw bombs, but also could throw you in a hole. You just have to avoid him. Standing in the bottom right hand corner helps with that. And now you can hit him with a boomerang. After spamming the boomerang at him, he'll be gone, and you'll then get a small key. There's a few 3-of-a-kind enemies around, and also after you destroy all the pillars, you can head up to the 3rd floor. You then can fight the next mini boss of the dungeon, the Grim Creeper. This guy is stupid annoying. He sends these flying enemies at you, and if you don't hit one of them, he respawns all of them. And this continues until you hit all 6. Once you do though, he flies off. You'll get the mirror shield, which allows you to deflect flames back. Quickly after, in another room, you'll get a nightmare key, and then you can use the key and head up to the roof of the tower. Here you'll find the Grim Creeper, riding the nightmare Evil Eagle. You have to fight him on the roof, which is a smaller platform. He can dive at you, as well as try to throw gust of wind at you to push you off the side, and also hit you with feathers it shoots out. The key though is when he dives down, just hit him with the sword. He'll recoil, and you just keep doing it. Eventually, he'll be defeated. And we then can get the Organ of Evening Calm. After this dungeon, we get the weirdest message yet though. We now have to head all the way to the west side of the mountain range. You need to go back to the way where the broken bridge is. You'll see Marin, who says she got put there by monsters. Also, our rooster friend found a friend. But anyways, you can hookshot across to save Marin, and then Terran comes and they head out. We then can find another heart piece and seashell. We can also get another upgrade from the bad guy, which lets us have 60 arrows. This is followed up by using the mirror shield to navigate more through the west side of the mountain. Here, there's the second to last heart piece and the last seashell. With that last seashell, we can head to the seashell mansion real quick and get the last reward, which is a whole bunch of rupees. Which is kind of pointless now, but it's still nice to have. And also the seashell mansion soul will be free. But with that, we can head back on our quest on the west side of the tall mountain. The owl before it has told us about a thing we got to bring back to life. If we go west, we can find the giant turtle. We have to play the frog song of soul, and that's when the turtle comes to life. This to me is such a cool way to enter the eventual dungeon. You have to fight him. So you just have to wait for him to get busy attacking and then blow him up with a bomb. You have to do this until his defenses are gone. When the mask comes off, you can jump and strike him with the sword. You have to do this until he's defeated, and after this, the entrance to the dungeon, Turtle Rock, will be opened. And now, we can go in. As we do, we can already see the aesthetic of the dungeon. It's a Mario World 8, fire temple lava vibe. And you'll see these new enemies that are called Vyres. They're demons that fly around and shoot fire at you. You can hit them with a boomerang to stun them and then hit them with your sword. They'll split into 2, and you can hit them or just dodge and they'll be gone. The first mini-boss here you can fight is the blue Hinox. He does the same thing as the red one. He's easily defeated as well with the boomerang. You also see these new blocks that you can control as they move across the screen. Other than the one in the lava room, you have to cover up the holes with the blocks to get keys. Another mini-boss around is Rolling Bones, which the last time we fought him was in the first dungeon of the game. He's simple and easily defeated. In this dungeon, you can warp to the entrance a lot with Manbo's Mambo. This allows you to backtrack way easier. We then can get the compass, dungeon map, and stone beak for the last time. We also get to fight another old mini-boss, Smasher, who's just as pathetic. He's just a freaking loser. There's also some Gibdos we can kill in a room with all cracked tiles, which is spooky. But also there's a room with all these bombable blocks that if we destroy, create an arrow on the floor. This tells us we need to bomb the wall here to open up a hole. There are of course the usual side-scrolling areas, one having jumping lava things that try to hit you, also from Mario. There's a statue we shoot with an arrow, and soon after, we can find the final heart piece. It's in this momentary breath of fresh air outside of the dungeon at the furthest west corner of the map. You can then walk over and find the final warp point and continue on to another door. When you get here, you'll see some Dodongo snakes. I didn't mention them before, as defeating them before was pointless because they would respawn. But now you can chuck your bombs off the side into the snake's mouth. After that, you can open a chest for the small key. We have to backtrack a while, go through some key blocks. And of course, there's some underground side scrollers, of course. But then we have another mini boss, Blano. He just continuously punches, but eventually does a wind-up punch. If he hits you with it, he will knock you all the way back to the entrance. I didn't have this happen, but it sounds annoying as hell. You just have to get behind him and hit him to eventually defeat him. You'll then get the dungeon item of the magic rod. That name sounds terrible. This magic rod can be used to attack certain enemies, destroy ice blocks underground, and also light torches. The destroying ice blocks is used soon after in the underground side-scrolling areas, where you have to melt some to continue on. We have to fight the last mini-boss of this dungeon, Q-Ball. You fight him the same exact way as last time. He's really simple. We also have to do another moving block room, which then completed gives us the nightmare key. There's one more side-scrolling section. And then we can use the nightmare key to fight Hothead. He's a fireball monster that bounces around and causes lava to go around the room. You just have to make sure to hit him with the magic rod. This causes him to lose the fire and then bounce around the room. You just have to keep hitting him with the magic rod like magic. You have to do this a lot of times, and he speeds up around the room the more damage you do. Once you do it enough times, he will be defeated. He of course reminds us for the last time that we are in the dream as well. But now we can get the final heart container of a complete 18 hearts. And we can also get the final instrument, the thunder drum. And then our last call at the end of the dungeon comes. Now, we are almost ready to awaken the windfish at the big egg up top. But first, we need to go to the library and open up the book on the bottom right. This will tell you a path you need to keep in mind. I wrote that thing in my notes app, personally. After that, we can go up to Mount Tamaranch and play the Ballad of the Windfish completely. And it then opens up the egg. We then can enter. Inside, you just have to follow the arrows that you wrote down to complete the maze you're in. The atmosphere within the egg looks awesome. But inside, you'll meet the final boss, the Nightmare. This boss has many different forms you battle. The first is the giant blob who you just have to throw magic powder on 3 times to defeat it. Its second form is Aghanim's Shadow. You just have to hit the energy balls back at him. The X ones you can't, but the regular ones you can. Once you do enough times, it'll go into the third form, Maldorm's Shadow, which is just like Maldorm from before, but quicker. It's fairly simple. There's then Ganon's Shadow, which to me was the most interesting. You just have to wait for him to throw the weapon, and then while he's recovering, attack him. After he's defeated, the next form is Land Mola. You have to spin attack since he moves so fast. We then have to fight the final form, Deathel. We have to wait till they open their eye and then jump up and shoot it. They have arms that spin around faster and faster. You just have to keep jumping and hitting the eye, and then Death will admit defeat. And with that, we finally awaken the Windfish. And finally, with all of that, we see how everything was a dream. All Link's dream as he's still out in the ocean. But we do see a seagull fly across the ocean, just like Marin wanted to. Every day, any day, we can be lost as time goes by. Maybe not really knowing what we want to do or who we want to be. I talked some about this in the Imaginal Disc video, but I really thought this game also captures the same themes of self-discovery. And finally deciding with your own agency who and what you want to be in life. Throughout Link's Awakening, as we find out, it's all Link's dream. It's not the Windfish, it's him. And in this dream, we see the wacky things like Mario enemies and creatures that aren't normally in Link's world. This already starts giving us that hint that it is a dream. But we see things that do remind us of Legend of Zelda. Link, of course, Marin, who is like a Zelda, Ganon Shadow when fighting the final boss, and different references to canon parts of the franchise. It's just all a little off, but eventually, as Link goes on his journey of his own will, he learns the island may be in the dream of the Windfish, and as he progresses, the bosses want to prevent the Windfish from waking up, and in that sense, is also preventing Link from becoming who he wants to be. There's all these flat out statements that this is the dream of the Windfish, but really, like I said, it's Link's. One thing I always think about is how this game is called Link's Awakening instead of being a Legend of Zelda game. Is because it truly is completely Link's self-discovery journey. And it teaches us that we can do the same. And in this journey, instead of saving a Zelda, he's actually saving himself in a way. But no matter at what point in time or the time we were killing in the past, we can be who we want to be. There's no shortcuts, and there may be so many factors in the way. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. It's your choice to wake up. It's your choice to attack the day. It's your choice to awaken. I'm sorry if that seemed corny or anything, but it really is how I interpreted the game. Link's Awakening really surprised me. Yes, it has the boring parts like Dompe's quest or the annoying rapid ride, but those are very small blemishes on what otherwise was an extremely fun game. And this is yet another one in my Legend of Zelda series. To me, this is a good interlude between the bigger games of that franchise. I hope you've played it, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. The next video will most likely be over a horror series, but I'm not quite sure yet, so give me recommendations on what you want to see. Also, if you haven't seen my other Legend of Zelda videos or other gaming retrospectives, you should check those out on my channel. I've made a lot of them, so if you enjoyed this one, those are pretty similar. Like, obviously, different games, different meanings, different stuff I talk about, but it's similar in the whole, like, deep dive into a game. But if you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I've been Colton. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe.